There are many scallop species, but in general, scallops are classified into two broad groups, bay scallops and sea scallops. The muscle of the sea scallop is not as tender as the smaller bay scallops, though slightly chewier, and the meat is still sweet and very moist. And we're going to show you how to pan-sear sea scallops today. Because the scallops perish very quickly, they are generally sold out of the shell without the beautiful orange roe, which is attached to it, but with still this little adductor muscle attached. I remove the adductor muscle, and we have a nonstick pan heating up on the stove. Add some grapeseed oil, and the reason I'm using grapeseed oil is because it has the highest smoking point of any of the oils. And notice I'm not putting much in, less than a tablespoon. Preheat the pan alone and then add the fat or the oil. Oil heated up along with the pan is more likely to get gummy and more likely to cause sticking. Now the mussels have been dried with a paper towel. Sprinkle generously with coarse salt and very finely ground white pepper. And do both sides. These are lovely scallops. And always try to plan your menu so that you're in season and not trying to find ingredients that are out of season. Now, choose a sauté pan that is large enough for all of your seafood without crowding. Now, you can do that with the scallops just to make sure that they're not going to stick. It's not like pan-searing a steak where you don't move it for a few minutes. These you want to make sure move around. And you are going to get a beautiful golden color on your scallops. I'm serving these just with lemon, wedges, something simple. Now, scallops are a rich source of protein, iron, niacin, and vitamin B12. And they have a very rich flavor, so you don't need to eat too many. 2 or 3 of these, the big ones, are sufficient for a first course or maybe 3 for a dinner course. Don't turn too soon or the scallops may tear. But I think they look like they're already browning nicely on one side. Look at that. Oh, what a perfect color. And the smell is so nice. They are not tearing. They are cooking, I would say, perfectly. And when cooking fish and shellfish, it's best to use a non-stick skillet to prevent any sticking whatsoever. We don't want to have these stick. These are great looking. Okay, looks like they are done. Now I have a plate with a paper towel on it. When I remove them right to this plate. Don't get them too brown. And here you have amazing looking scallops. A pretty wedge of lemon. They look so good. And I'm putting a little bit of coarse pink Hawaiian salt on top. So that took, all of about 6 minutes to do. No reason not to have scallops for dinner. And when cut into, scallops should be opaque all the way through, just like that. Now this pasta dish is one of my all-time favorites. I learned about Bottarga, which is the main flavor ingredient of this pasta, when I was visiting the beautiful island of Sardinia. I had never been there before, and I had never tasted Bottarga, which is in the Mediterranean, known as the Mediterranean caviar. And it's the roe of either the gray mullet or the tuna fish, which is found in the Mediterranean. It's salted, pressed, and air-dried, and it adds a very unique flavor to the pasta. So I am browning the garlic in olive oil, and we have some white bread in our food processor, and I'm just pulsing the bread until it forms a rough breadcrumb. And I'm going to toast this, about a cup of it, in with the garlic. Just about that much. And now gently brown the breadcrumbs. That takes about 5 minutes. The pasta, the bucatini, which is a long tubular pasta with a hole down the middle, cooks for about 6 minutes in the boiling water, and then the rest of the time in the sauce itself, which I'm going to make right now. So the breadcrumbs are a golden brown, and I'm removing those to a tray. They're crispy. They'll even get a little crispier drying out of the oil. And now we're going to make the rest of the sauce right here in the high-sided skillet. And we have to heat now 1/4 cup of olive oil and 4 cloves of garlic crushed. Just leave the pieces nice and big because you can pick those out later on. So I'll just crush these like that. And they can go right into the... Oh, the pasta has cooked now for 6 minutes. I'm going to drain that into a colander. Good facial, steamed facial. And just let that sit right here. Okay, so the garlic's in. We're going to add 1/4 cup of capers. Stand back because the capers, even though they've been drained of their liquid, do tend to pop open. And they turn into little flowers when they do pop open. It's a pretty sight. And 1/4 cup of golden raisins, slightly chopped. So already it's an unusual combination of ingredients. This would be something that you would find in Sardinia or even in the islands off the coast of Sicily. And we have preserved lemons. These you can buy or you can make, but we want just the peel cut into small dice. What these are really lemons that have been sitting in kosher salt for about 3 weeks. It is a North African, Moroccan kind of condiment and extremely flavorful. So add your preserved lemon and 4 cups of chicken stock. Bring that to a simmer. Already a different sauce, wouldn't you say? You need a tablespoon of lemon juice. That's basically about 1/2 lemon. And 6 tablespoons of unsalted butter. 1 stick of butter is 8 tablespoons, and 6 is 3/4 stick of butter. Makes cooking very much easier when you know the proportions. So let this cook together until the butter melts. And another exotic ingredient is this reddish Aleppo pepper. This comes from Turkey or from Syria. Aleppo is actually a city in Syria. 1 teaspoon. Has a very nice taste for this particular pasta. Now when this comes to a simmer, add your pasta. And the pasta cooks yet another 3 or 4 minutes. And while this is simmering, and don't forget to stir, you can prepare the rest of the ingredients. Al dente, by the way, is the most desired doneness. The pasta is cooked until it can be bitten easily, but still offers that little sense of texture. That's the term, al dente, to the tooth. And we have our Bottarga. This is tuna Bottarga, and you buy it by the ounce. It is the most unusual flavor. Salty, pungent, really, really amazing. It's a little hard to find. You can probably get it online, but that's the Bottarga. And I want to also make some strips of Parmesan cheese. All of this is going to go onto our pasta. If you use a vegetable peeler like this, you can make yourself quite a little pile of these pretty curls. Let's check on our pasta. Add 1/2 cup of Parmesan cheese. This does help thicken up the liquid. And then add your 1/4 cup of toasted pine nuts. And your lovely chopped parsley. Flat leaf parsley is good. And now I'm going to add most of the Bottarga. I've reserved some for the top. just so utterly beautiful. So the way I like to serve it is in a shallow dish like this. Take a big swirl of it. Try to get all of the ingredients. A sprinkling of the breadcrumbs. And I don't know if you've ever had a pasta that you just can't stop eating. This is one of them. And some shavings of the Parmesan cheese on top. And a little bit more of the Bottarga. And here you have a very unusual, flavorful, unique, delicious pasta, one that you will remember forever. Bucatini with Bottarga. I have been making gnocchi for a long time, and I'm watching you make it, and it's so absolutely the same way.
Yep, and it's,
Pretty
you
much.
know, I think people get intimidated about making their own. You got one more? Okay.
Steamed potatoes.
Steamed potatoes, and you want to, I cut them into smaller pieces like this because they cook a lot faster.
And if you steam them, they don't get so wet, because if they're too wet, they won't make nice light
Exactly,
gnocchi,
you
right?
want them to be nice and dry.
Right.
After they cooked, I let them steam a little bit longer with the top off,
Okay.
just to dry them out a little bit. So those are all riced, and then
And this is called a ricer. And actually, you can use it for mashing potatoes, too, because it really takes away every lump.
Oh, yeah, I love
It's
these.
a-
So to
okay.
this, I add about 3/4 cup of flour. And it's just like when you make a pasta. I mean, you really want to do it by how it feels.
So how many potatoes? How many
This
pounds?
is 1.5 pounds.
Okay.
And I had to get a smaller potato,
I
which
saw
wasn't
you.
a big deal because
I
it's
saw you.
okay. Yeah, right? But it really, you know, it doesn't really matter. I mean, and that's the fun thing about making pasta is you really, it's about feeling it and making something from scratch.
Did you put the salt?
Not yet.
Oh.
And also I need some nutmeg if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'll do the nutmeg.
Okay. And actually, I kind of put even a teaspoon or two of salt in here because potatoes do need some seasoning. So then, as this comes together, you start
looks
using
good.
your hands.
And you don't need the rest of that egg?
No, I think it's
No?
okay.
Okay.
It feels all right. So then
There's
you just
more.
kind of start pulling it together. And you don't want to overknead it because then it's going to get tough. And you also don't want to put too much flour in it because that also makes it
Oh,
tough.
yeah.
So then once you have a nice dough, you just take a piece, and if you'd like to roll, here's a knife.
Okay.
And
How big? Like that?
Yeah, a little smaller than that because they
Oh.
do expand once they get into the water.
Okay.
So we have them in the water. They've been in for about 3 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Once they float to the top, which should happen pretty quickly, you just kind of let them cook for about 2 more minutes. And then I have 6 tablespoons of butter, which I've let just brown a little bit.
So good.
It just gives it that nice nutty flavor, which is actually a nice complement to the nutmeg.
Oh, yes.
So then to that, I fry a little parsley.
Should I put the gnocchi on this tray?
Yes. And then...
Oh, you're doing parsley, not sage.
Well, I bought the parsley thinking, you know, I had something in mind, but sage would have been a great way to go as well.
Sage tastes really good in brown butter. Oh, look how pretty. This looks good.
Okay, so now that we have our gnocchi in the pot, we can kind of toss that around. And then I'm also making a caramelized onion and sausage and broccoli rabe
Oh, yum.
to go with this. So we have here an onion, 1 onion, which is what I could afford. And to that, we're going to add it.
And
let it
what did you
caramelize.
get? How much sausage did you get? Half a pound?
I got a half a pound.
Yeah.
That's all that's
Yeah.
all I could afford, but it
plenty.
actually goes a long way.
But you know, what I like about these meals is that each of you has really economized on the expensive stuff.
Yeah.
And you can make very good meals with not so much. I mean, you don't need a great
don't
giant
need-
steak
no,
for
you
every
don't.
person.
And you can always be, you know,
Just the one who's paying for it.
right.
No, but no, really, you just don't. Oh, yeah, I want to get
Oh,
the
did I
rest
miss
of-
one?
Yeah, you missed a few.
Okay, let's
Don't
add
want to miss
those.
any.
So then I'm going to add spicy sausage, and I had thought originally that I'd use pepper flakes.
Yeah.
But then when I couldn't find the sausage and he made this nice mix for me, I was able to just have him put some extra chili flakes in there for the added heat.
that's good.
And so the onions have a nice sweetness to them. Add a little bit of sugar. So then as the sausage browns and it gets a nice color, to that, just to make it a little saucy, I add a little water. And then I have one bunch of broccoli rabe that I blanched off ahead of time. And it just makes it nice
that
and
looks
beautiful and healthy. I mean, you don't always think about gnocchi or pasta.
Here, I finished your gnocchi for you.
Oh, you did. They look gorgeous. See, and that was so fast, and that's the thing.
So
People think
fast,
that it
yeah.
takes a long time,
No.
but it
So
doesn't
that looks
have to.
great.
So then we will make a plate here. My hands are a little doughy, so I might have you
I'll do it.
pull it together. And we, of course, want to season with a little salt and pepper.
Yeah, gnocchi seem to eat up.
Here, I have a
Oh, yeah,
spoon
yeah.
that might
I
help.
think you better use that.
Yeah. Gorgeous.
See, they're slightly browned. They got fluffier.
They do. That's why
Yeah.
I say don't cut them too big because
Yeah.
they do expand in the water. And then you'll serve that with your gorgeous broccoli rabe and sausage. And then you can top that with some Parmesan cheese.
And you were able to afford the Parmesan?
I was able to afford it. I actually bought it in a pre-grated pack, and that was cheaper than a block.
Okay.
And then if you'd like, you can top it with a little bit of olive oil.
Because that was free.
Because that was free, exactly. So I tried to incorporate the
Yeah.
free items and make it
Well,
work.
that looks actually very, very nice.
Good.
Oh, and look at this. This is the citrus salad with the little cherry tomatoes.
Yes, I just roasted those with a little olive oil, salt, and pepper for about 20 minutes at 400 degrees.
So skip the dessert, have the salad instead, have
Exactly.
the green, have the pasta.
Yes.
A very nice combination. Let
Good.
me taste.
That was good. It had good brown butter on that.
Very good. Well, now I'm going to prepare a delicious recipe using one of the foods that raises our serotonin levels, which can help us feel happy. Joey, what's that?
I think it's chocolate, Martha.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew
Pasta,
it.
Martha.
Nope.
Cheeseburgers.
Nope.
Hot dogs. Pizza.
Nope. Never guess. Look, Joey. Salmon.
Salmon. Chocolate-covered salmon, Martha?
Well, today we're doing salmon, and it's the fatty omega-3 acids in salmon that have been shown to improve your mood. You might not know it while you're eating it, but afterward, instead of being all like exhausted and wanting to take a nap after you eat that giant piece of chocolate cheesecake, Joey, you're ready to go to the aerospace gym and work
Boxing
out.
with Michael.
Yes. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
It's about increasing your levels of ecstasy.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fish.
Yeah.
Fish,
Who knew
Joey.
fish would do that?
Yeah. So it also contains vitamin B6, vitamin B9, vitamin B6 and B9 help convert food into energy, and it makes that thing called serotonin.
Okay.
So and use wild salmon, by the way. Some offshore farms use pesticides and antibiotics while they're growing their fish. Pollutes the water. The fish are in the water. Try to find line-caught wild salmon. And I'm going to show you how to make a very flavorful lemon tarragon salmon, which is featured in the March issue of Martha Stewart Living magazine. You get this magazine every month, don't you, Joey?
Yes, I do.
Don't you read everything?
I do.
This is a parchment-baked lemon tarragon salmon over asparagus. Everything. Tarragon is great for you. Asparagus is great for you. Radishes. So slice the asparagus lengthwise. You can just, if you have these little thin asparagus, just take your little paring knife and cut right down through the middle. What we're doing by splitting them is reducing the cooking time.
Okay.
So that they cook the same time as the salmon and the other things in the little pack. So this is almost done. Have two pieces. This is for two, of course. Two 6-ounce boneless, skinless salmon fillets. And what we're going to do is divide the asparagus half on this piece of parchment. So we're going to do two. That's good, like that, and one here. A few radish slices would be very nice. Use your little mandolin and just slice the radish over. See how easy that is? Do you have one of these at home, Joey?
I have one of those, and I'm always careful of my fingers,
Well,
Martha.
yeah. Don't look up. Don't take your eyes off the thing you're slicing, because you can take the little pieces off your fingers.
And that doesn't taste good.
A little salt, a little pepper on each of these.
Yeah.
And your beautiful salmon fillets right on top. That'll look. This is a very tasty dish, and people like unwrapping a package on their dinner plate. They really like this. They think it's fun. We're going to make a little bit of kind of a relish to go on top, even more flavorful. So half a small red onion, a quarter of a teaspoon of salt, a pinch of black pepper, the juice of a half a lemon, and this is the best way to squeeze it. If you don't have one of these little hand squeezers, really good for you. You could even put a slice of lemon on top if you'd like. 1.5 tablespoons of tarragon leaves.
I love tarragon.
It's sort of an anise flavor.
Okay.
And some lemon zest, 2 tablespoons of lemon
Smell
zest.
it, very fragrant.
A little olive oil. So this is just like, this is like the ambrosia for your fish. And so half of this on one. And half of this. And so when you open the pack, everything is there.
It smells phenomenal even before it gets cooked.
Yeah, it does. It really does. And have your little oven or your regular oven preheated. Yeah, okay, so that's ready. Now you can fold this one up. Would you like to try?
Can you show me how, Martha? How do you do this?
Yeah, and then you just watch me. I'll do it on this side. So you have your little package.
Okay.
Match up the edges. And then you start over here and you just fold. We're going to make kind of a semicircle. See how it's folding?
Yep.
And it sort of folds onto itself. And press down hard until you get all the way to the other end. You're faster than I am. Look at you.
And you can get this parchment paper anywhere, Martha?
Oh, and the grocery store has it on rolls. You can buy big sheets of it in cooking supply stores.
And I'm always worried. This will not burn in the oven, right? It will not go on fire or anything like that?
Well, if you put it under a flame, it would.
Yeah, right.
But look, so nice. Yeah, it holds together.
Like that?
Yeah, look at that.
How much I'm learning from you, Martha.
Yeah, right here. Put it on here like this. And this goes right into your oven. 400 degrees, it's important. And here we have one that's already cooked. I love this little convection oven. Because if you're going to cook dinner just for 2, you don't have to heat up the whole kitchen.
Small oven like that would be perfect.
Yeah, it would be, and it is. So this one we can take out. This one we can put in.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't want to touch this, it's hot.
Okay.
So there you have it. Let's see what it looks like when we open it. Here, this one's for you.
Oh, it smells great.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that tarragon and the fish itself. Don't touch this.
Yeah, it's hot.
Hot, hot, hot. That's for you.
I'm getting hungry, Martha.
I know. I can feel the emotion that goes around me. The KitchenAid 12-inch convection bake countertop oven is really fantastic. It just saves you time. You don't have to heat up the big oven.
That's right.
It doesn't overheat your kitchen. It offers convection bake and broil at temperatures up to 450 degrees. Look at this. Now you can serve this on the paper. I think that's the nicest way to serve it. Fold that back and under. Eat it right out of the paper.
Can I eat it now, Martha?
Yeah, I'm going to eat mine too. And I have news that will boost our audience members' serotonin levels and make you all very happy. KitchenAid is sending you home with a convection bake countertop oven. Yes! So now for the best part of the meal, the steak itself. In the early 19th century, porterhouses provided a place for coaches to stop so travelers could dine. At one such establishment in New York City, a special cut of steak was served that later became known as a porterhouse, offering the best of both worlds. This cut has the flavorful strip steak on one side and the tenderloin on the other. You can see it right here. This is the tenderloin and this is the strip, but the bone is intact. We're going to serve this steak with a compound butter, and we're using a half a pound or 2 sticks of room temperature unsalted butter. And to that butter, we're adding about 2 teaspoons of chopped chives. Just add those right in. I love how that looks. And about a tablespoon of parsley and about 2 teaspoons of thyme. And you stir this up. I always put a little bit of pepper in my butter and a little bit of salt. By using unsalted butter, you control the saltiness. Now, this can be made way in advance and put right in the freezer. This butter is delectable, melted into the cooked meat. And form this into a cylinder in the parchment. Roll it up. As it gets cold, it'll hold its shape. And then you can twist the ends and tie them. Put this in a plastic bag, and it can sit in the freezer for a few weeks. So now the steak itself. A porterhouse is the same cut as a T-bone, but from farther back on the animal so that it contains more tenderloin, this part right here. And this is a gorgeous piece of meat. I love this steak, and it's very well marbled. Rub the outside with salt and pepper, both sides. Have your cast iron searing skillet heating right beside you. Dry the meat well with a paper towel if you find it moist. This is pretty well dried, so it will not brown as nicely or sear as nicely if you try to cook it wet. So this is basically ready to go. If you hear a great sizzle, you know that you're caramelizing the outside of the steak. Yes, perfect. The reason for the high heat under this pan is to make a crust on the outside of the meat. Now, if the meat were not as well marbled as it is, I would have added a little bit of oil to the pan just to prevent any sticking. Searing really does help adhere the seasonings, the salt and pepper, to the meat. 4 minutes per side. Be sure to wait until the steaks release easily from the pan before turning the steaks. Now that is a really good sear. And this is where the cast iron skillet really comes in handy. It is doing its job. Make sure your oven, by the way, is preheated to 425 degrees. This steak is going to go right into the oven for about 10 to 12 minutes. For medium rare, remove the steak from the oven when it reaches 120 degrees, since the internal temperature of the steak will rise about 7 to 10 degrees after you've taken it out of the oven. So be very careful. It's been 12 minutes. The steak looks incredible. Don't you think? Now it's important to remove the steak from the pan onto a cutting board like this. And it has to rest for about 10 minutes. Resting the steak equalizes the internal temperature of the meat, and the juices are reabsorbed into the meat, not in this little moat around the board. So 10 minutes, don't rush it. So 1 2-pound porterhouse will yield quite a bit of meat. I would say that this steak would serve generously 3 people. Cut the meat across the grain. So utterly beautiful. And this meat can be arrayed on the platter. And this is the tender loin. You can put some beautiful vegetables on this platter, or you can serve the meat as is. But this is the compound butter. That is a really great looking porterhouse steak. All you need is a really good glass of your favorite Cabernet, and you have an unforgettable meal. Enjoy. Next, we're going to pan-sear a duck breast. This has long been a favorite way to cook duck breast. The French love rendering the fat from under the skin of a duck and serving the meat a beautiful medium rare. There's a little bit of preparation before you actually get that duck breast into the pan. I'll show you how, and the ingredients, very simple. A beautiful duck breast like this. This is a Muscovy duck breast. A shallow pan, a lot of coarse salt, either a very, very sharp knife for scoring the skin, but better yet, this amazing tool, which is called a jacquard. It's a series of very sharp blades that pierce the skin of the duck. A saute pan and heavy-bottomed stainless steel is perfect, and a pair of tongs. That's all it takes to sear a duck breast. A Muscovy duck breast like this weighs about 1 pound, and that should be enough beautiful meat to serve 2 people. It's well trimmed, the skin is tucked under this side, and it's time to either score the skin or use the jacquard tool. And I'm going to use the jacquard tool on this particular duck breast. Now watch what happens. You just put it here, and you go through the skin, you can see a series of little holes in the skin. All these little holes will help release the fat that is under the skin. Most of this fat is right under the skin and not in the meat itself. And that's why if we get rid of the fat by pan-searing, we will have accomplished the task, a crispy skin, very little fat, and very nice lean meat, which is very good for you. So there we have our jacquarded skin. I love the name, jacquard. And now put a layer of salt right on a sheet like this, and put the duck breast skin side down in the salt. It should stay like this for approximately an hour. No longer. You don't want the salt to permeate the meat. What it's really doing is getting into the skin. You're going to have a very nice, flavorful, crispy skin if you do this step and a couple others along the way. Now here's one that's already in the salt. You can see how it is completely salt encrusted. And this is what it would look like if you used a sharp knife and scored the skin through the fat. But I find that by using the jacquard tool, you get a more beautiful presentation and one beautiful piece of crispy skin. Now, don't heat your pan. You remember, we really did preheat the cast iron skillet for the steak. But for duck breast, because of all that fat that we're trying to render out of the skin, we start in a cold pan. So the duck has been resting in the salt for 1 hour. Take a stiff brush and brush off the excess salt from the skin and proceed with another step, which is a 25-minute step. And that is to put the duck on a bed of ice covered with plastic. Put the duck breast skin side down. What we want to do is chill the fat and the skin side of the duck. And put some pie weights right on top of the meat and let that sit for 25 minutes before you put the duck breast in the pan. So you have to have about an hour and a half to 2 hours of preparation before you start cooking the duck. So just remember that when you're having a dinner party. Now this particular duck breast has been weighted and been sitting on the bed of ice for 25 minutes. Remove the weights. Put the duck breast, oh, it's very rigid and cold, right in a cold pan. Sprinkle the meat side with just a little bit of black pepper. It's already been sitting in salt, so I'm not going to add any extra salt at this stage. And using your weights, put the weights back down on top of the meat. Now turn your flame to, kind of medium. You're going to render the fat slowly. It's going to take about 25 minutes to render the fat from under the skin of the duck and to crisp the skin. You want a beautiful golden brown skin. And the weights help the meat from shrinking and keep the meat nice and flat so it cooks evenly. As the fat accumulates, melts from under the skin, you can just, with this metal spoon, spoon it off into a receptacle. You'll want to save that duck fat. It is wonderful for browning sliced potatoes. It's wonderful for sauteing garlic and onions. And duck fat is unlike beef fat. It is more like olive oil, monosaturated fat, than it is like beef or pork fat. And in fact, Muscovy ducks have less fat and less calories per pound than turkey. Isn't that an interesting fact? Oh, you can see I'm already getting a couple tablespoons of fat here. You know, when you cook a turkey, how much fat there is in the bottom of the pan. Very interesting. Now, you remember I told you not to press down your steak with a spatula. Actually, this is a different story. You can and should press the meat down with a spatula or weigh it down to force contact with the pan surface, and it will not make the duck meat less juicy. So here we have a little bit more fat accumulating. Preheat your oven, by the way, when you start pan-searing to 350 degrees because the duck breast actually finishes cooking in the oven. So it's been 25 minutes. Let's turn the meat. Oh my gosh, look at that gorgeous color. And keep the weight on the duck because, again, it's cooking nice and evenly. Here's one that was scored. When this is cut on an angle, you will get probably 13, 14 very nice slices from this duck. This is ready to go in the oven. And I'm just waiting for this one. So this one is just about right. And I'm going to put this one back in the pan also. And now this goes into the oven, 350 degrees, skin side up. And we want the meat to register 165 degrees on an instant read meat thermometer. It's been 8 minutes, the duck breasts are done. These can rest on the board for just a few minutes. They will continue to cook while they sit on the board for about 5 to 7 minutes before you start to carve them. But they are beautiful. Most of the fat has been rendered out from right under the skin, and they look perfect, as good as any restaurant. Now, pour off any fat. I'm going to start our sauce. 2 tablespoons of shallot go right into the pan. There's just a tiny bit of fat in the pan, which will help cook these shallots until they're transparent. And we're going to use port wine, 3/4 of a cup of port. It's a sweet red wine, which is very delicious with duck. And to this, add a 1/2 cup of chicken broth, vegetable broth, veal broth. Add a couple sprigs of thyme for a flavor. And we want to reduce this liquid until it is nice and syrupy. Now, to make sure that you don't touch the handle, because it's very hot from the oven, keep your pot holder right on the handle. That's a good tip to remember. Don't let it slide into the fire, though. And now whisk in your butter. This little added touch makes the sauce silky, smooth, and do this off heat, by the way. Very nice. And now carve your duck. And you want to carve on an angle. And it's good to use a board with a little moat around it like this to catch the juices. Very nicely cooked. Try to make the slices uniform. This looks like a good medium rare duck breast. And it is juicy, as you can see. And look how much, when you slice it correctly, look how much you get. This is quite a lot of meat. So the 2 ends, they're for me. And let's see how this one looks. This looks very perfect too. Yes, very nicely done. Just beautiful. So now, 1/2 of this goes on our serving plate. And now, how would you like some shoestring fries? And a side order of sauteed spinach. And there's absolutely no reason whatsoever to go out for dinner, not when you can cook like this at home. A little of this port wine reduction. A good bottle of the best Pinot Noir. And you have a perfect pan-seared duck breast. A roasted rack of lamb is the ideal choice when you want to impress friends at your next dinner party. Searing the meat first caramelizes the exterior, and then roasting in the oven guarantees that the interior will be flavorful and incredibly juicy. Now, when buying a rack of lamb, specify that you want the rack cut from the loin end. This is the meatiest part of the rack of lamb, and where the eye, this is called the eye, is the largest. Check that the meat is deep red in color and with a firm, fine-grained texture, and that the fat is pearly white, just like this. Now, this is called the shine bone. If you don't remove that or have it removed, and it's much easier if somebody else does this at the butcher shop, it will make carving almost impossible. Now, this has to be taken off at the butcher with a bandsaw, and this is what it looks like when it is removed. Look how neat and clean this rack of lamb is. This comes from the same butcher shop, and a full rack of lamb has 8 ribs for 4. Each rib consists of a nugget called the eye. This is the eye of the meat, and this is what you love to eat. It's so good. And this is the arching rib bone. Now, you can just roast it like this, but it doesn't look so pretty. A method called Frenching takes away all this between the ribs. It's fat, it's grizzle, and actually a little tiny bit of meat. And this is called Frenching. It's not too hard to do. Your butcher can do it for you, but you can also do it yourself at home. And this will delineate each rib and make a very much prettier presentation. You'll see when it comes out of the oven what a gorgeous, gorgeous presentation it makes. And these are individual, so then when you're carving, you're going to carve right between each rib, making a very nice nugget of meat. And now the Frenching looks done, but it is not done because you still have to clean each of those bones. And I find the easiest way to do that is, well, first of all, cut this way to get rid of the fat. Take that fat off the top of the bone. See how much more comes off? You think it's done, but it's not. Now that the bones are all clean, the lamb is ready to brown. So rub some salt into the meat and some ground pepper. On both sides. Okay, so right into hot olive oil. Now, while it's browning, you can prepare the breadcrumb coating. Rather than the more traditional mustard and herb crust, this rack is coated with yogurt, which adds a subtle flavor and tang to the rack. So in a blender, put 3/4 of a cup of parsley, a 1/2 cup of mint leaves, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 3/4 of a cup of breadcrumbs, and the zest of 1 lemon. And that gets right into the blender jar. And 1/3 of a cup of olive oil. Watch your lamb. It's already getting a very, very nice color. Yes. Okay, so just quickly pulse this. Okay, that should be enough. So now scrape this out into your bowl, and it's ready to coat the rack of lamb. So tasty. Okay, so our lamb is pretty brown. Very nice. So now, this is rested for 10 minutes. 1 tablespoon, a big tablespoon of yogurt. Don't use blueberry, strawberry, or peach. Use plain yogurt. I like the nice, thick Greek-style yogurt, unflavored. You can use low-fat, regular, it doesn't matter. But this is only to help the breadcrumb mixture adhere to the lamb. Very tasty and pretty. And now pack on that beautiful green, breadcrumby, herby, olive oily mixture. So there, doesn't that look delicious? So now put this in your 400-degree preheated oven and roast until an instant read thermometer registers 125 degrees, but that should take anywhere from 18 to 24 minutes. Set your timer. Well, here it is, fresh out of the oven. It has to rest for approximately 10 minutes, just so that the juices stay in the meat when you carve. Remove this very carefully after 10 minutes to a carving board and slice into individual chops. This is very, very pretty, and you can arrange it on a tray, all the different chops, right on a tray. It should slice nicely right through. Beautiful. The meat is perfectly cooked. Look at the pretty color. The crust adheres nicely to the meat. Garnish with fresh mint and serve with my favorite, mint jelly. Now I would serve rack of lamb like this with scallop potatoes, with a puree of butternut squash, with some green vegetable. But whichever way you intend to serve it, your guests and your family will love it. Our kitchen staff is always coming up with wonderful new recipes, and I wanted to share one that seemed like the perfect dessert for this time of year, a passion fruit cheesecake tart. And yeah, it's really good. And here to share this seasonal treat is TV chef Thomas Joseph. So Thomas, thank you. And I'm starting on the crust because I love graham crackers. I love graham cracker crust, and this is the perfect crust for this tart, isn't it?
It really is, and it's really simple to make.
8 grams. No,
9 graham crackers.
Oh, it's only 8.5 now. I ate a half. And
I'm sure it'll be okay.
2 tablespoons of sugar.
2 tablespoons of sugar, and then 4.5 tablespoons of melted butter.
Oh, good.
And 9 graham crackers is 5 ounces. So if you like another cookie crust, you could use Nilla wafers or a butter cookie. Even chocolate grahams could be great here. And then we have it in a food processor, and we're just going to process this up until it's finely ground.
Okay.
Kind of like wet sand consistency.
Okay. And then we're going to just press it into the tart shell?
This is a 9-inch fluted tart shell with a removable bottom, which is really helpful here because then you can lift your tart out easily.
Well, show the removable bottom.
This is what they mean by a removable bottom, just like that. Some tart pans don't come like that, so when you're shopping for them, look for these.
So that's really like a quiche pan.
Yes.
Okay.
So that looks
there
great.
It is, wet sand.
Wet sand. And then when you press into a fluted tart pan, I like to use a measuring cup or anything with a straight side so that you can really press the crumbs into a nice crust with a sharp edge.
That's a good idea.
Yes, and if you don't have a measuring cup with a straight side, if you have a silicone one that has the slope sides.
The bottom of the glass.
The bottom of the glass, right? Yep. And so, Martha, do you want to demonstrate this?
I think I can do that.
All right. I will hand this off to you. And then after we press this into the pan, we're going to bake it at 350 for about 10 to 12 minutes until it's nice and fragrant. You'll be able to smell it.
Oh, it already smells good. I love passion fruits so much. And passion fruits are in season now.
Yes, they are. And even if they're not in season locally, they come from all over. They come from Brazil, they come from India, Hawaii, so you'll be able to find...
I haven't seen any passion fruits growing in Central Park lately.
No, well, no. In tropical environments. I have 4 ounces of cream cheese here, and I'm just going to whisk this up with 1/3 cup of granulated sugar, a little bit of sweetness here, and a pinch of salt. And I know, Martha, that you're a believer in salt in baking.
Oh, I am.
It brings out all of the flavor in the ingredients. So it's very important. So I'm just going to whisk this together, and then I'm going to add 1 egg. And this is the cheesecake filling. It's very simple, 4 ingredients.
That's the bottom layer?
This is the bottom layer, yes. And it's really pretty when you get a nice slice because you get the contrasting colors.
So is that a passion fruit curd on the top?
It's more similar to if you have like a key lime pie, the filling you would put in a key lime pie because it has sweetened condensed milk and egg yolks. looks pretty good. I'm just gonna scrape down.
Now this gets baked, right? The crust?
Yes, 350 for about 10 to 12 minutes. All right, I'm just gonna give this one more whisk together here.
Now how hard should I be pressing down?
You wanna be firm, but not too firm. You don't wanna compact it too much or else you're gonna get a really crisp
Like
crust.
a rock.
Yeah, you want a nice tender crust.
Okay.
And that looks nice. And our filling here is almost ready. Come together. Give it one more second here. Okay. And then I'm just gonna pour this.
So this firms up when it bakes?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
All right. And so here we have the baked shell.
Oh, okay.
And
So
I'm
it
just
comes- it
gonna-
comes together very nicely.
Yeah. I'm just gonna pour this in.
It's a little lumpy.
It's a little teeny bit lumpy.
Will it
will
bake
melt
out?
out. It will
Okay.
melt down. Just gonna hold it like this. And pour this into the bottom of the crust, and you can use an offset spatula to smooth it out into one even layer. So this is the cheesecake layer here.
Now that gets baked?
350 again.
Okay.
For 10 to 12 minutes.
Okay.
And then we're gonna go to the passion fruit layer, which is right
can
here.
I mix?
You can mix, and I know this is one of your favorite things, so I'll let you add this.
yes.
And if you all don't know passion fruits, we have some up here for you to see.
Show that fruit.
Now, what's interesting, we have green passion fruits and we have the purple passion fruits, and you want to make sure that you look for the purple passion fruits with a dimpled skin. The green ones are actually unripe, and the juice won't be as fragrant, so look for the dark purple. But if you can't find passion fruits, you can always order online. They have great juices that are frozen these days.
Oh, I love those
This is a really great value. It's $10 to $12 for this big. I think it's what, 2.5 pounds.
Where do you buy that in New York?
We buy this at Chelsea Market or Calusian's. Any specialty market will have fruit purees frozen.
In the freezer.
Yes.
Yes.
So I'm gonna add half a cup of that to here. And if you wanted to make this tart and you didn't want to wait for it to arrive in the mail or you didn't want to go out and find it, what's really nice is you can make this with lemon juice and a little bit of lemon zest, or lime juice and a little bit of lime zest.
Yes.
So
Or key lime.
key lime would be fantastic.
Key lime zest.
Yep, just like key
Yes.
lime pie. And you did the salt, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. And so here we have our baked cheesecake layer.
This comes together so well.
It's again, I think this was 4 ingredients. So it's
And chilled, it will firm up. won't
and
it?
chilled it will firm up. Yep, so we're gonna bake this actually though. So
Oh, okay.
yes, so I will pour if you wanna scrape.
Oh, so you're baking it. Oh, did you bake the cheese first?
Yes, you bake
Okay.
the cheesecake layer first and then you pour over this.
So it goes in the oven 3 times.
Yes,
The
and this
crust,
is
the cheesecake layer, and
the passion fruit layer.
Yep. Okay.
And this goes in the oven at 325 now for about 20 minutes. And it will jiggle slightly in the center. That's okay, because it will firm up when you chill it. And I'm gonna cut you a slice here, Martha. You only really need a small slice of this because you saw that whole can of sweetened condensed milk went into it, so.
My favorite.
All right.
Don't put one of those cans in your refrigerator because you eat it with a spoon. It's like the best thing. Now
it's-
everybody's going to do it. See,
it
like
slices
telling children
nicely.
not to put beans in their ears, right?
Yes, beans or M&Ms or any of those little things.
That
there.
is so beautiful.
Have you ever made pot de crème? This is an old-fashioned French baked custard dessert that translates to pots of cream. And the term pots of cream also refers to small lidded pots that it's traditionally served in. Now these are chocolate pot de crème, and I have 6 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate on the board. And notice I'm using a serrated knife to cut the chocolate very easily into small pieces. Always use a serrated knife to do this. We have 2.5 cups of heavy cream brought to a boil. Add to that some espresso powder, 2 teaspoons. Now espresso powder is not ground up coffee beans. Espresso powder is espresso coffee dehydrated into crystals and very, very finely ground. So when reconstituted in a liquid, it gives that really strong, delicious espresso flavoring. And 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And right into the cream, add your 6 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate. Use the best chocolate you can find. We generally use a French or Belgian chocolate. Just stir that up a little bit. Let it sit until the chocolate is completely softened. So now we'll get our eggs ready for the pot de crème. We need 4 large egg yolks. So have a little bowl to collect the whites. And the fresher the eggs, the better, of course. Beautiful, beautiful eggs. Stir the egg yolks, breaking them with a wire whisk. Add 1/4 teaspoon of salt and 4 teaspoons of granulated sugar. You can use extra fine or regular granulated. Now here is your chocolate. Whisk that up, it's completely melted. And now we have to temper the egg yolks with the cream. So pour a little bit of the hot chocolate into the egg yolks, bringing the egg yolks up to temperature. You don't want to cook the egg yolks. So you see I'm adding the hot chocolatey cream slowly so that I do not cook those egg yolks. I'm just tempering them. And now the custard is ready to strain and put into the little pots, the little pot. So now just put this mixture right through a very fine sieve to get out any possible lumps. And this will make a gossamer pudding. And now we're using these very cute little oven-proof glass cups that I'm going to cook the pot de crème in. And I've put a terry towel in the bottom of this roasting pan just to keep the cups from shaking while they're in the oven. And I have some hot water boiling right here. That's going to make the bain-marie. Now pour your boiling water next to, around, and up the sides of the little cups. And now it's optional whether you want to cover your custards or not. I like to cover them just with a piece of parchment paper like this. Transfer this into a 325-degree preheated oven. It's going to take around 35 to 40 minutes, so set your timer. So once the puddings are out of the oven and nicely cooled, top them with a nice spiral of whipped cream like that. Make sure that you cool the puddings, the pot de crème, and refrigerate for a couple hours before serving. These are gorgeous, a delicious end to any meal. Enjoy. I'm going to show you how to make a crème brûlée. It's very easy and very delicious. Now for the custard. 4 cups of heavy cream. And I'm using an organically prepared cream. This is from Ronnie Brook Farm. It's just really rich and gorgeous. And I'm always looking for the local dairy. So here, 4 cups of heavy cream, 1 vanilla bean split, and then you slit it down with the tip of a knife and you press very hard along the cut to release those millions and millions of little vanilla bean seeds, and then put the entire vanilla bean right in the cream. That will infuse nicely. And to the cream, add 3/4 cup of granulated sugar. This is a 3/4 cup measure. I love this one. So here, bring this to a almost boil, just till little bubbles form all over the surface. And we need 7 egg yolks. And the fresher, the better. There. So this will get mixed up a little bit, waiting for the warm cream. And while the cream is heating, I'll show you, I love these oval crème brûlées. These are really beautiful. These hold 7 ounces of custard, which is a very generous but not overpowering size. And I've placed 6 of them in a shallow pan,
because we're going to put a little bit of boiling water and make a bain-marie, a hot water bath for the custards. Now watch your cream carefully. You do not want it to boil over. It's just about ready. What we're going to do now is temper the egg yolks with the boiling cream. So we want just a little bit of cream dropped into the egg yolks. Stir while you're adding. You don't want to curdle the egg yolks. And they will curdle if you add too much too soon. Looks very nice. There's the vanilla bean. Smells so rich. And now just strain the custard into a pouring cup. We don't want to waste any of those vanilla bean seeds. They are heavier than the mixture, so they sink to the bottom, and you just want to make sure they get into the custard. Try to find nice, plump, rich vanilla beans. The Madagascar ones are excellent. Press the vanilla bean. So you would not want any of this in your custard. It's a little rough here, and that's why you strain. I'm going to try to pour, see if I can do it without spilling. This should make exactly 6 custards, 6 crème brûlées. And we're going to put this right into the oven and pour the boiling water so it comes about halfway up the mold. So that simulates a nice steam bath for the custards. It helps cook the custards evenly, keeps them tender. Okay. 40 minutes, 300 degrees, preheated oven, set your timer. Now, after 40 minutes, you can see that the custard is set. Oops, hot. It shakes just a little bit, but it is not wet. Remove each of the ramekins to a rack. They look so great. I love the color. And now these have to be chilled, at least 4 hours or overnight. And now for the bruleeing, the fun part, which means to burn sugar on top of the crème brûlée. Just use plain granulated sugar and put a thin but complete coating over the top. The sugar gets applied right before you're going to torch it. Otherwise, it might start to melt into the custard itself. Turn on your torch. And then just start melting the sugar and caramelizing it at the same time. And these little torches are available at places like the Home Depot, the hardware stores. This will make a beautiful, glistening, crunchy topping. And that's quite a spectacular crème brûlée. Now listen to this. This is what you want to hear. Hear that? That's the crunch. And then when you dig in through that crust, savor it and pick up a little bit of the custard at the same time. Pretty fab.